All right, we're here with Gary Johnson, Libertarian candidate for president here at Politicon. First of all, Governor Johnson, you're polling at 10 or 11% in polling. That's amazing. Did you even expect to come out of the gate that strong?
Well, there were a couple of events that I think I predicted. One was that Trump was going to be the nominee, so when Cruz dropped out, that was really significant. I think the fact that Bill Weld joined the ticket also was a real bump beyond my wildest expectations. Bill Weld is my running mate. Actually getting the nominations after that took place, and you know, it has happened. So there's been a lot of interest, and right now we're just really trying to take advantage of earned media and doing the social media thing, and on a shoestring money-wise relative to the two major parties. But for us, fundraising is also robust.
So in 2012, when you ran, you got less media coverage. You were taken less seriously. Obviously, they've got to take you more seriously here because of the polling results. But also, as you say, you're a former governor of a state, New Mexico. William Weld is a former governor of a state, Massachusetts, and so that's a pretty powerful team. But I would argue that still to this day, the media is not taking you seriously enough. At 10 points when you're running for president, that's a real number. That's a big number. And people keep saying, what if there's a third-party candidate? And I'm thinking, wait, there is one. There's actually many, but one's at 10 or 11%. Do you think that they're still not realizing the gravity of that?
I completely concur. Right now, what you see on these polls are you see Trump and Clinton, and then they add the third name, mine, and yeah, it shows up at in that 10% range. But it's after they've done the initial two, and then one out of I don't know right now, maybe 1 out of 6 polls has my name in it. The other 5 polls don't have my name in it. So it still continues to be a two-party system, and it's not indicative of really what is happening.
So this is what I call the invisible hand of the establishment. Nobody's doing any conspiracies, but somehow there's groupthink. And so Jill Stein's at 4%. That's a real number. You're around 10%. That's a huge number. If Mike Bloomberg was in the race and he was polling at 10%, I think they would cover the living hell out of it. For some reason, they feel like Bloomberg is real, but these other candidates that are polling well are not real. What do you think it is? You're in the race.
Well, that it really is a rigged game, that you have to be in the polls to actually show up. And I believe that if I were in the polls that I would, in fact, be at 15% at some point, because 10% right now is, there's a lot of scrutiny that goes along with 10%. And I think that Bill Weld and myself have resumes, have history that actually hold up under this kind of scrutiny.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with the process, you have to be at 15% to get into the debates, which is already an outrageous system because the debates are run by the two parties, the Democratic and Republican Party.
Exactly.
So of course they want to keep people out. They don't want other alternatives. So they put an enormously high bar of 15% because without being in the debates, how do you get to 15%? It's a chicken and egg situation.
Exactly. And look, I would not be doing this if there weren't the opportunity to win. But the only opportunity to win lies in being in the presidential debates. The Super Bowl of politics, 100 million people 100 million people watching. I do think that Bill Weld and I present a unique option. The fact that we're fiscally conservative, the fact that we're socially liberal, and let's stop with the military interventions that I think have made the world less safe, not more safe.
So if they applied the 15% rule in the primaries, in the beginning, no one would have been in the Democratic debates other than Hillary Clinton. They wouldn't have even let Bernie Sanders on the stage because in the beginning he was at 3%. On the Republican side, there would have been 2, 3, maximum 4 people in debates instead of the 8, 10, 16 that were in the debates. So now these are great points that you can make of hypocrisy, but when you make them to the media, does it resonate? Do they say, oh, wait, you're right. Wait, nobody would have been in the Democratic or Republican debates? Or they go, yeah, whatever, I don't care. You're not at 15%. You're not establishment. You're not one of the pre-approved candidates. I don't care. What do they say?
Well, let me just speak from experience. In the 2012 cycle, they would say to be running as a Republican in 2012, they would say that you have to be at 2% in A, B, C, and D poll. Well, gee, when you're not in A, B, C poll, that means in D poll you got to be at 8%. That was the exclusion that took place for me. Whenever my name was in the polls, I was equal to or ahead of those on stage, but the Republican Party refused to stand up to me on the exclusion that was taking place, that the exclusion goes completely unnoticed by everybody.
Yeah, that's the invisible hand of the establishment.
That's the invisible hand. The invisible hand is, okay, these polling organizations, why don't they include your name? Well, why? Maybe they don't include your name because they're actually being paid by Democrats and Republicans to do other polls throughout the years, perhaps, and maybe that business goes away if they actually include a third name.
So let me be clear about this. I think our audience knows, and I've talked to Governor Johnson before, we agree on some things. We certainly disagree on many things.
We do? What do we disagree on?
I'll get to that in a second. But one thing is clear. There's no question about the hypocrisy of we won't let you in the poll into the debates unless you poll at certain numbers, and that's what ABC, CBS, CNN, et cetera tell you. Then they turn around and don't include you in the polling that you need to do well in. I mean, that is so unfair. It's ridiculous.
And completely unnoticed, like I say, by everybody. If you're not in the poll, and the Presidential Debate Commission, they say you have to be at 15% in the polls. Which polls? Which polls and when?
Right. I mean, if I did it, I couldn't do it with a straight face. Governor Johnson, you have to be at 15% in my TYT poll, but I didn't include you. I mean, I couldn't say it with a straight face. That's crazy.
Or pick out polls where you weren't at 15%. I mean, this is the rigged nature of the game that nobody is aware of unless you're actually directly involved in it, as I have been.
So before we get to our disagreement, what's the battle plan for winning here? So obviously you want to get into the debates and you're going to pressure those guys and you're going to make your case. But I'm not talking about that in this case. I'm talking about, okay, you've done all that. Do you think that you could take enough voters away from Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton to be able to win?
In the polls where my name has appeared, they've actually analyzed that I take more votes away from Hillary than I do Trump, but I think that if I am in the general election, I think I take equally from both.
Why is that? I mean, you're a former Republican governor. You're certainly fiscally conservative. I think a lot of progressives would say, wait, now, there's a lot I disagree with you on, whether it's budgets, all of the different economic issues. My main disagreement with you is money in politics. So why would progressives vote for you?
Well, just the whole nature of, look, crony capitalism is alive and well. Let's just take that one as an example. I think that crony capitalism and free market get hitched together unfairly. Free markets really are what we should be pursuing throughout the world. We should be pursuing peace throughout the world. Free markets is a way of doing that. Free markets is more jobs for Americans, not less jobs. But the criticism is that it's crony capitalism, which it's not. And crony capitalism is alive and well in this country. Governments for sale. I saw it as governor firsthand. I vetoed legislation. I think I contributed to a level playing field, something that government can and should try and attain.
So let's dive into that a little bit more in terms of policy. So when we talk about trade deals, there's obviously the Trans-Pacific Partnership. What's your view on that?
You know, I have a sense that it's probably laden with crony capitalism. I have heard from people that I respect that it actually advances the ball, so I would keep an open mind. But the devil's in the details, and I don't know the details of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But I would be a skeptic looking at that to begin with, because I think it's laden with, like I say, those that have money that are buying favoritism. It's for sale, and it's getting sold.
Now, we know part of what's in the Trans-Pacific Partnership because of the leaks, but what Governor Johnson is alluding to is we don't officially know what's in it because it's secret. I mean, isn't that amazing, though? But corporations know what's in it. They're negotiating it. How could we, the public, not know congressmen staffers can't know. For a while, the congressmen couldn't know, but the corporations know. Doesn't that tell you the corporations are actually more powerful than everyone else in the country?
I agree with you. It's the European Union. It's the fact that that Britain severs itself with the European Union. European Union is all about crony capitalism. It's all about controlling economy in lieu of free market, which really would expand the economy.
Were you in favor of Brexit?
I think it's a good choice for. I think it's a good choice for Great Britain. Yeah, I see. I see the European Union as, like I say, just controlled economy, the opposite from free market.
So that's a complicated issue. There's some on the left that agree with you. There's a lot on the right in the UK who agree with you. Some of it is around immigration, but in terms of the effects of it, the markets did lose $2 trillion worth of value, which is a stunning number. So, did that make you reconsider your position at all on Brexit?
No, I think that people are going to be looking to the U.S. for safe haven. I think that with regard to the euro and years to come, I think there's going to be an uncertainty in Europe, and I think a lot of the drop in market value yesterday also had to do with banks and their exposure, the financial institutions, their exposure to European markets. I wouldn't be able to sort that out, but high-paying dividend stocks in the United States, our bond went up, the 20-year Treasury went up yesterday significantly. We're gonna be the safe haven for cash.
So I want to do a longer sit-down interview with you. Hopefully we'll do that in our studio in L.A. I'd love to do debates with you, whether it's with Jill Stein or, of course, eventually Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. But I do want to ask you one more question because we alluded to it here. Money in politics. So this is, I think, been the main source of my disagreement with libertarians and based on our previous conversations with your candidacy. I think that the money is an enormously corrupting influence. I think that's what leads to the crony capitalism.
And no disagreement with your premise, but you would say limit campaign contribution. I would say allow for unlimited campaign contribution, but make it 100% transparent, something that does not exist today. The super PACs are 100% non-transparent. I'm the one that says, look, as a candidate, I should be wearing a NASCAR jacket with the logos commensurate upon the amount of money that has been given me by various groups, corporations, or individuals.
So transparency is a good thing, and I would vote with you on that. But it basically says, we accept the bribery, just tell us who's bribing you. But I don't accept the bribery. So why should private interests be able to buy our politicians? And if you get $1 million from somebody, Governor Johnson, you know that that's going to influence you.
Absolutely not, Cenk. I'm going to argue just the opposite. When you limit campaign contribution, what you do is you empower the status quo. You empower people that already have a name, and I guarantee you that if you receive a $2,000 maximum contribution from 50 people, that you're going to have 7 of them on the phone asking you for a contribution or some sort of payback. My largest contributor as governor of New Mexico gave me $150,000. In 8 years, there wasn't one single time where he was on the telephone asking me for anything.
Now, you can claim that, and I don't know the veracity of that. Of course, I can't speak to it. I wasn't in your office.
Limiting campaign contribution empowers incumbency. Absolutely.
So look at what happened with Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton had giant incumbency advantage, had a giant name advantage, brand name advantage. Bernie Sanders was known by almost no one. And with $27 at a time, he overcame a 60-point lead in the polls. So that goes to show you, no, if you have small donations, that could be just as powerful.
Bernie Sanders had a name, and Bernie Sanders was the opposition to Hillary Clinton. I'm just saying, let's just say Bill Gates... All of this campaign finance reform would have prevented me from ever having gotten elected governor of New Mexico because I contributed all the money myself. If you have someone, let's just take yourself, and you want to run for office, and Bill Gates is going to give you $100 million to achieve it, wouldn't you say that let's know that it's Bill Gates, but Bill Gates is giving you the opportunity to be able to present this to the whole world, and maybe you end up as President of the United States because you've had this amount of money available. If you have to go out and raise that $2,000 a lick, I got to tell you, man, it's not going to happen.
So
you're not going to have a chance.
Governor Johnson, that's a perfect example because, no, I would hate that system. Because if Bill Gates gives me $100 million, guess who I'm in the pocket of? Bill Gates.
Well, what if Bill Gates is all about better government? That's all he's about, and he's pegged you as the guy that's going to give you.
Governor Johnson, get real though. No. Look. Here's what I'm saying. You think they don't want?
We'll agree to disagree with this on this one.
All right, we'll agree to disagree. But if somebody gives you $1 million, usually they want something in return. They're not dumb businessmen.
Not necessarily.
Okay, that is our disagreement.
That's our disagreement, right?
Okay.
All right.
So now, but we do have more agreements on the issues of war, on the issue of criminal justice reform. So we'll do a longer interview on the Young Turks, and you'll hear all the policy positions.
All right.
Thank you, Governor Johnson.
Thank you.
Okay.